House Republican Whip and member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Steve Scalise, joins me right now. Congressman, I'm not sure if the White House press secretary understands the markets and business at all based on that answer, but the president certainly is pointing fingers about the blame of high oil prices.
Yeah, Maria, great to be with you. And President Biden's really good at trying to blame everybody else. And if you just unpack her statement, she blamed multiple different people in the same sentence about who to blame for inflation, none of which include her boss. It's Republicans. It's the war. It's Putin. My goodness. I mean, everybody knows what's going on. Joe Biden came out and said he wants to attack American energy as a candidate for president. He's carried out policies to attack American energy. Prices are through the roof. Families are angry, and they're mad at the president, and he won't change his tune. So he's trying to blame other people, and nobody is buying it.
And we should point out that it's not just Joe Biden, but it's the Democrats' policy. So tell us about this policy of a climate change agenda and how it is permeating through government. You're talking to colleagues all the time. They continue to push new rules on corporate America, on investors, about ESG and new rules to follow on climate risk.
Yeah, you're seeing this where the SEC, the Consumer Protection, the CFPB, you've got all of these Treasury, all these agencies directed by President Biden to go after industries, to go after the energy industry through things like ESG, where they're trying to pressure companies to say, hey, what's the carbon footprint of everything you're doing in America? Of course, they exempt foreign countries. You know, President Biden's going to fly to Saudi Arabia, 5,700 miles, to beg them to produce more oil. By the way, what's the carbon footprint of that trip? There aren't solar panels on Air Force One. It's jet fuel. And yet he could stay right here in America, pick up the phone and say, would you produce more energy in America? And they would say yes. But he won't do it. He won't let us produce more energy in America as they talk about this cult religion. Everything is climate change, global warming. They keep changing the name of it. It all ends up in higher prices for families and countries like China, countries like India, countries like Saudi Arabia, who don't have the good environmental standards we do, are producing more of our goods, more of our energy at higher carbon emissions. It's the nuttiest thing I've ever seen. They're increasing carbon emissions abroad while shutting things down in America and crushing our economy and crushing middle-class families.
Yeah, which is why it's a head-scratcher that he thinks he can get away with blaming oil companies when it is, in fact, all of this spending that we've seen over the last year. We've got the inflation timeline that shows inflation was at 1.4% when Joe Biden walked into the White House. Now it's at 8.6%. And there are many things that we buy that are even worse than that. A dozen eggs is up 32% year over year. So what could you do and the Republicans do if, in fact, we see the Republicans take the majority in November? What can you do to actually change this inflation nation?
Yeah, Maria, the first thing is stop the madness. You know, all these multi-trillion-dollar bills where they're spending money to pay people not to work, to bail out failed states, to force people, even under what they called infrastructure, you can only build the road if you use union workers, which jacks up the cost, or you have to follow all these new regulations that jack up the cost and don't achieve anything real. That's what is driving up inflation, and people are fed up with it. So stop that and start reversing it. Let's get back to the things that work. We had a great energy policy where we were paying less than $2 a gallon. Let's go back to those policies. Let's secure the border. These are the kind of things we can do. And we will be rolling out this agenda over the summer, the commitment to America, to show people what we would do if a Republican majority was in place to counter all of these disasters and crises that Joe Biden's created.
Unfortunately, Chuck Schumer is still trying to push through another reconciliation package with more spending and $1.5 trillion in higher taxes. But I want to get another big story on your radar and get your take on the security situation at the border. It's getting worse by the day. We now have an all-time high record number of migrant encounters in the month of May. Agents there are catching a stunning number of people on the terrorist watch list, 50 so far this fiscal year, compared to 15 last year. We don't know who's coming in, what their intentions are. We also have hundreds of thousands of gotaways, people who are seen on surveillance that have gotten away and they didn't want to be apprehended. Congressman.
Yeah, it's an alarming crisis that was self-created by Joe Biden. Again, we had a secure border under President Trump, and Joe Biden came in and deliberately reversed all those things that worked, got rid of Remain in Mexico, canceled construction of the wall, sent a message out to South and Central America that the border's open. And they didn't just come from there. We're seeing over 160 different countries are coming across our southern border. Afghanistan, he turned it over to a terrorist organization. They are trying to infiltrate our southern border. There was just an attempt on George W. Bush's life. And one of the things that they found in the intelligence is they were trying to infiltrate some of the people that were going to try to carry out this execution of a former president, because the border is open along Mexico, and they were going to bring some of the people in there. Thank God they stopped it. But how many more things like that are we seeing? How many, as you point out, people on the terrorist watch list who've already come across our southern border when Joe Biden opened it up? This has to stop. It's a major crisis. The fentanyl, the drugs that are killing people all across the country are coming through the southern border. And it's no wonder that Mayra Flores became the first Republican to be elected over there on that border with Texas and Mexico in 100 years. She ran as the first Mexican-born woman to come into Congress, first time that a Republican won, and she ran on border security and cleaning up this mess that Joe Biden created.
Yeah, big victory for her this past week. Congressman, it's good to see you. We'll be watching all of the developments. Thanks so much.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Maria.